Hello, welcome to another Sonic Lab presentation. We've got Tim Chandler here from Nektar Technology. He's showing us the advancement and the integration of the Panorama P4 controller with another DAW. We've had a look at Logic 10.2 with the new Alchemy update, but this time we're going to look at Reaper, right?
Yes, like everything we do, every DAW is different, and the individual features of Reaper really come alive with the Panorama. We'll go through some of those in the demo, but one of the key things about Panorama that works so well as a Reaper controller isn't just the integration. The integration takes place over instrument, transport, and mixer modes, but then the internal part of the Panorama is also key for Reaper because it's so customizable.
Right.
So, for example, here we've got the actions menu, and anything you do in Reaper, let's say, for example, I wanted to open a track template. So if I click Open Template here, and then if I just cancel that for now, go back to the actions menu, you can see, for example, using the one I just showed you, the action I just showed you, I set one up already on here for the Oddity. I made a track template for my Oddity, and I can open it up. Now you'll see that there happened
was a few actions, weren't there? Yeah.
There was a lot, yeah. You can have up to 8 actions. So if I just go to internal mode, which is the 4th mode of Panorama, that obviously goes alongside the integration for Reaper, and I press the setup button. So all of this stuff isn't just for Reaper. This is for any DAW, but it's particularly useful, I think, in the context of Reaper. And if you go to Control Edit and press this button here where the QWERTY symbol is, up comes your macro editor, and you can see here that it is essentially a keystroke that I assign to the action. It's also right arrow and then return. So in other words, you're opening up a window, navigating the window, and then using Enter to confirm the selection. Right. So when you consider that kind of
yeah, I mean, this is in Reaper, but I mean, you could just as easily set up kind of macros for batch processing stuff, all sorts of things, right?
Yeah, it's really, really handy part of the Panorama firmware, and something that isn't talked about that much because of all the integration stuff, of course, which is great. But this is also this is also great too. Seeing as we have a track now, let's talk about the integration.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have 3 modes: mixer, instrument, transport. Mixer mode is pretty straightforward. I won't spend too much time on what this is. Everyone knows what a mixer is. You can, of course, go through your mutes, solos, record arms, pans and sends, but little things like this is tedious to get back to pan, of course, when you've got to go through 8 sends. So what we do is we add anything that's tedious on the Panorama, try holding the button down and using the data encoder, and you'll find that you can scroll around the loop, so it's just quicker. Little things like that make a big difference.
Sure.
So over here, these controls relate to the selected track. So whichever track I'm playing with the keys, whichever track is highlighted in my mixer, that is the channel that I'm controlling with these. And what these are controlling is defined by the buttons down here. So if I press the EQ button, there isn't any EQ right now on this track because we started from a blank slate in Reaper. I can press the Create button and up comes Reaper EQ. Now, what you have here is you have the gains and the frequency. If I want to get to Q, I press the Q button. It's very simple, very intuitive, and now I can start tuning my EQ. Let's just turn that down a little bit. Still a little hot, isn't it? Now you notice how I didn't have to think about which channel it was that I changed down, because I know that that's always my selected channel volume, which is always nice. If we press the inserts, the track template I set up for Oddity has some common synth effects. So here you can go through the different effects in your what's called an effects rack. But I can also, when I select the plugin, the insert, I can view it directly by pressing the view button and toggle open and close it. So if I turn this now, I've got myself control of my distortion, but if I want to see those parameters, I just press the edit button and I can start playing around with my different distortion levels.
And that's obviously reflecting on the screen. I mean, I'm guessing in terms of the screen, it's just useful to have an extra bit of visual feedback rather than actually touching it, which is nice, right?
Of course, as I'm doing this, my head is down here, and this is where all my focus is, and that's really important from a workflow perspective, because in some cases the computer isn't even inside. Effects sends, if there are any effects sends on the track, which there aren't at the moment, I'm just going to add a new track and we'll set one up. So I've added a track, and I'm going to add an insert first. I have to use the mouse for this, unfortunately. Let's just add a delay onto this, and then insert on this track. And then if I go to Oddity, I can set my routing over to
right. That's what
send.
that's the thing where you have to do the manual configuration, because you can send from tracks to effects buses, other buses, or output buses, all sorts of stuff, can't you, within Reaper? That's what the thing.
That's right, exactly. And you can see here it's sending the track 2, but because track 2 has a delay on there, then you can see. And I can set my send levels. Now, of course, I can do that for as many times as I need. These are going to be sends 1 to 8. Here you can turn the send on and off and set pre and post as well.
All right.
And you can even send it pre and post the actual effect.
I know in Reaper you can set up really quite complex chains. Can you chain up more than one virtual instrument and reach that at the same time?
Yes, that's a really good point. It's quite a cool feature of Reaper, actually. And with Panorama, it really brings it out. So if I go back to the Oddity track now and the effects for my Oddity, so let's add, I don't know, doesn't matter. Let's add Mini Monster. It has to be a VSTI, and the reason it has to be a VSTI is in order to get the MIDI to come through one instrument and to another. But this little button in Reaper here allows you to set the I/O, and then if you go to MIDI output, you need to have this thing ticked here, merges with MIDI bus, and what that does is ensures that the MIDI coming into the first instrument is merged with the MIDI coming out of the first instrument, and then it goes into
So effectively, we're creating a layer of 2 instruments at this point. So does that mean we can now actually edit both?
Well, you can. I mean, we haven't really looked at the instrument mode yet, of course. Here we have Oddity in all its glory, brought into hardware form with the Panorama. So here's your most important controls straight away on the home page, and then in here, as you dive in to our plugin maps, you can start.
Oh wait, I noticed when you hit the pages there. When you hit the pages there, they're named. It's not just kind of like page 1, 2, 3.
Exactly. And that's what makes this workflow complete. It's this display that allows us to do that, and without that, you'll even if you've pre-mapped the parameters over 4 pages, you're still going to be having to remember which one it is that you went to.
But we've got 2 instruments on this, so
we have, yes.
How do we get? Can we get to the second one with ease?
Yep. So without changing a track, you can change instrument by shift instrument, and you can see I can switch to Mini Monster. And then I have my map for Mini Monster all there as well, you see. So all my pages are updated. So when I was saying it's a Reaper controller, when we had Mixer active, now when I press the instrument button, this is a Mini Monster controller.
Right.
And then now it's an Oddity controller. And you see all of the menus update, all of the buttons update, everything is completely customized. And it's not just, the other thing we should say, we've got these 8 controls that we've seen. You've got the buttons down here, so switch controls are on the buttons, so you're not having to do switches with encoders.
Right.
That's just silly. And of course 8 controls is never enough for instrument support. So
do these
section
come in,
over here that we
into
haven't
play
touched
as well, right?
is, so on the Oddity, of course, you've got your, as you'd expect, A, D, S and R. And if you press the view button, you can see exactly that.
And the second envelope is the AR envelope.
You can see it's nicely split down the middle between the four controls, and anything else related to the envelope. All of this section is one envelope. This is another. In the case of Oddity, it's an AR. And then master volume, or whatever happens to be. In the case of Oddity, again, it's slightly different. VCA gain. Is right there. So if I switch back over now to Mini Monster, you can see on my I've got my VCA and I've got my VCF, and that's quite common for any subtractive synth that we map. We put the amplitude envelope here, the filter envelope here, and then the master volume is always here.
Right.
And here is your mixer channel volume. Even if you haven't got, even if you're in instrument mode, this is always going to be your selected mixer volume, which is always nice to have right there. Mixer and mute and solo as well. And also if I press the fader button, read and write.
So you can set automation.
You can set automation, something that a lot of controllers, especially keyboard controllers, overlook. We really go to town on our plugin mapping. As you can see, it makes it a very intuitive experience. If you haven't, or even if you have a plugin that we haven't mapped, or even if you want to modify a plugin's map, you literally just Let's make sure that I've got the Mini Monster in view. There we go. Press the view button.
There we go.
See how that toggles
Flip
the GUI.
between, yeah.
And what you can do is you just, if you hold down Shift and press the menu button, up pops Learn Mode. And you can see that now any control that I move can be mapped straight to a control there. And when you're done, you have the option of
you can save
saving it, or and then you never have to do it again. That's your map. So there's a lot of customizing you can do for any instrument, even if it's not mapped by us.
And then it remembers that. So essentially, you can update the sort of interpretation layer. So because you're not having to use any wrappers or anything like that, it will always come back the same no matter what, right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's really key about what we do, because we're doing everything through the DAW. We don't use any wrappers, we don't use any hosts. The other important point about that, I guess, is this will work with your existing projects.
Right.
Whereas if you're trying to add a VST host you have to host the instrument in order to get the mapping or the presets.
So you'd have
of
to
that
reconstruct
instrument.
it.
So you have to reconstruct your existing projects every time. So this is definitely the way to go. I think a lot of people understand that, and it's a lot more work, admittedly,
for you guys. Yeah.
But once the work's done, we can leverage that, of course, into our other technology, into our other products, and it's a really, really key technology.
Right. So is that pretty much it for Reaper, or is there anything else?
Well, we should probably look at transport mode, because transport mode is what kind of is often overlooked actually. Most controllers have 6 transport buttons, and we have them too. But we also have this extended transport section. We also have this on our more budget line, the Impact series. We have extended transport, and these 6 transport controls alone aren't. They're useful, but they're not really that useful, because once you've done a recording, maybe it didn't work, so you need to do it again. So you need an undo button. Once you need to be able to turn the click track on and off, and then you can dive in and do pre-roll as well. And your macros. Exactly. And then the transport mode also gives you the big display. It ensures that you can see your loop points. It ensures that you can control the tempo. It ensures that you can set different loop points individually and move the song position along. Now, see, I can move the song position along to be, let's say I wanted to set up a 4-bar loop. I can move it to bar 5, and then I can just say shift and go to the end of the loop. It's going to now set them up. And I'm doing this, of course, without looking over there, because I can see everything. I can verify that it has done that. Thank you very much. You can see that. I don't need to. You've got go to, start and end here of your loop. And what I did there when I set my loop up was shift and press go to start or end, and that set my loop point. So setting your loop points is like a massive workflow booster. And you can shift the whole loop along the timeline to another set of 4 bars or whatever. Exactly, exactly right. So I've got the pre-count on. You've got something in there already, so it's going to play. So presumably you now can just run a write automation on top of that as well, yeah? Of course you can, yes. So if I go to instrument mode, and you can see here I've got my instrument stuff. Obviously I can turn right on now. Go back to the start of the loop, back to instrument mode, hit play. And that's just right in the lane straight in. So is these big DAW integrations that you're releasing, they come as like free downloads? I mean, how does that work? Everything is once you bought the Panorama, all the updates and the integration we provide it's all part of the product that you're buying, you're purchasing. So the cost of the Panorama includes all the integration for any of these DAWs that we support. Yeah, and we continuously update it as you've seen with Logic and as you can see now with Reaper and all the other stuff that we do. And then you go to the website, you download a package for your DAW, you get your user's guide that's specifically for your DAW, you run the installer and you're off, and you're basically done. Right. Yeah, every DAW has a slightly different setup, but genuinely it's simplified because it's dedicated. So you're not having to load another product for an emulation. There's no MCU emulation, so you don't have to load MCU products, and set up all of these different routings. you install it
It's
and
just
you're off,
straight in.
basically. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Tim, thank you very much for that.
No worries. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure having you. I want to say you should also check out the Logic 10.2 integration, and please do subscribe to our channel and stay tuned. That's it for this time. See you next time. Bye-bye.